Welcome to the Spellbreak GotSoL podcast. If you are enjoying the show, please feel free to leave a review on iTunes. You can follow the show on Twitter at SBGotSoLPod. You can send an email at sbgotsolpod@gmail.com. And if you feel like supporting the show further, you can leave a tip at twitch.tv/RayGotSoL. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. You are now listening to the Spellbreak GotSoL podcast, where we highlight members of the Spellbreak community that are making a positive impact, dominating lobbies, or simply got soul. Here we offer tips, talk about the current state of the game, and get behind-the-scenes access to some of your favorite breakers. Welcome and enjoy the show. Welcome to the second episode of the Spellbreak GotSoL podcast. I am your host, Ray GotSoL. Today we have a very special guest. He's a staple in the Spellbreak community, the leader of the coffee gang, the lord of fire and wind. He'll set you ablaze in-game as well as in your soul. I give it up to the one and only Kalnore. What's up, man? How's it going?
I'm doing well, man. How are you today?
Doing great, man. I'm really excited about this chat, and I really would like to pick your brain and see what kind of information we can get today. So.
Sounds good. Have at it.
All right. So what got you into Spellbreak? Like, how'd you hear about it?
Well, I was actually in another game's Discord, and someone brought up this pre-alpha game that was like a mage-based BR, and it kind of caught my eye a little bit. So I looked into it. I watched one video and saw the spell interactions of Dragonfire and was hooked. Instantly signed up for the pre-alpha.
Wow. So when did you sign up for the alpha?
End of October.
Okay, so you've been in this for a while.
Yep.
So you're pretty much an OG, huh?
Pretty close.
Yeah. So describe some early experiences in the game with you, man.
It was very strange for me. I was used to kind of, any sort of BRs, but they were all guns. That was kind of the staple of battle royales for the longest time. It was all guns, either Realm Royale, Fortnite, PUBG, even COD, stuff like that. And that was one of the biggest things for me, was like getting used to the slow projectiles, all the interactions, a lot of the knowledge, stuff like that. And just how the game was played before, we don't have our 30 player lobbies back then. It was 15. If you ever saw 20, like, you were in a really hot spot that night. And it was basically the same people, like, over and over and over. You're playing against vets that have been playing for a few months now, and at that time that was a long time, because it was still pretty early.
Right.
But it was fun. It was very fast paced, very, high intensity. Everyone was running Blink, everyone was running Wind. But some of the classes were different. Just like it's a very different game than it is now.
Right. So what kind of changes have been made since then? Like, what are the glaring differences, I would say?
Just the changes to classes. Sorry about that. The changes to classes have been enormous. The old damage multipliers, you could just jump in the air and get a 50% damage boost on somebody.
Right.
You could be within 5 meters and get 50% damage boost. It was So that was a big, when they got rid of all of that, that was a huge blow to people who were running that kind of thing. And then the hits to very, very specific classes, whether it be, Scav, when that was running rampant through the community, Scholar for the longest time. And even simple changes, like one of the most interesting things, I think, was when they changed Frostborn to what it is now. People hated it, where they were like, oh, this passive sucks. And,
was there always alacrity?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That was always there. But like the passive was a huge change, and people were mad about it. And myself, as an ice player back then, I was also like, wow, this is a huge blow. I don't really want to play this if I'm just playing it for alacrity. I didn't really see the utility in some of the stuff that I see now.
Right.
Now Frostborn's a hugely popular one, specifically for that passive and alacrity.
Yeah. So when you first started the game, like, were you getting absolutely pummeled by everybody, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. Everybody takes their shots at the beginning.
That's right, man. 100%.
There's a rite of passage for Spellbreak now.
That's right. That's a good way of putting it too. So when did things start turning around for you in game wise?
Honestly, I think that's one thing that got me hooked on in the game even more than I would have normally been for whatever other game was. I was winning quickly. It didn't take me more than a couple weeks to start successfully playing and winning and, killing a large majority of the population.
Yeah.
And that was partially just due to because there's a lot of good players and they're everywhere. So you can really watch them and learn from them and get good tips from them and stuff like that. And everyone was friendly. It was very, very helpful, small, tight-knit community.
Right, like kind of like a small town community feel, right?
Exactly.
Everybody knows everybody. Everybody's helping each other. So what things really got you over the hump, so to speak?
I was just intrigued by everything, just all of the knowledge that was there to be gained, and the fact that I saw people doing this, like running the same things as me, but were like beyond me, like miles ahead. I was like, man, they're doing some really cool stuff. I see these videos, like people are putting out like montages and stuff. I was like, man, I really want to do that. It's really cool. So I took the time out of my playtime to watch them. And, within just a few days, I could see significant differences.
Wow.
It really didn't take too long.
How long do you think the learning curve is for this game, generally speaking?
My general rule of thumb was like, after 10 hours, you've got a good grasp on the basics. That maybe that 20-hour mark, you're starting to understand that a little bit more in depth of some of the advanced mechanics. You're starting to get introduced to those. And, once you hit that like 30, 40-hour mark, you've invested some time into this game. It might not seem a lot compared to like, the people with hundreds of hours, but you've got a good handle on the game at that point. So, a couple weeks of like solid gameplay and you're going to be good to go.
Yeah. So how would you describe your playstyle?
Aggressive.
Well, that's simply
Rush in,
put.
Do as much damage as I can and don't die before they do.
What was your first favorite build into this game?
The first one that I played at a high level was Ice and Wind with a Toxic offhand, like a very just classic Frost setup. It was with Frostborn and Tempest, the old versions of both of those classes. So it was significantly faster paced because the old Frostborn passive it cut your charge time in half for frost shots.
Oh wow.
And with Tempest, the old Squall, all you had to do was jump in the air and you instantly get that 30, 40, or 50 percent damage multiplier. So, people were just running around with alacrity, getting really fast, high damage frost shots off.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun.
Sounds very ancient now to think about it. Like, must have been a different world at the time.
Absolutely.
I know I announced it in your intro, but can you just, for the record, tell me what is your signature build so that way we can make it official?
Fire, anything to do with fire.
Fire and wind, right?
Yeah, fire and wind. Fire and stone with the new patch now that wind jumping is not a thing anymore. But just any sort of aggressive fire build. Yeah.
I mean, I know a few people in my circle that I play with where we refer to fire and wind as the Kalnore, so.
Well, I did play that one for 2 months straight, so yeah.
Yeah. So what are some pros and cons to this build, and how do you adapt to it?
The cons, I just start off with, some of the rough stuff about it. Its mobility is not there. With the lack of wind and with the lack of, maybe something like alacrity or any sort of movement speed, you're going to be in a rough place unless you have some decent loot. So that early game can be a little tough for you. It's not, one thing I like about it though is that this could go either way. It's not skill point dependent like you might see a Bulwark or a Frostborn build. It's gear dependent. Once you start getting like, even uncommons and rares of your gauntlets, you can start hammering people.
Right.
which is a personal preference of mine. I'd rather do that.
All right, let's talk a little bit about for beginners. What would you recommend as classes for beginners, and why?
Bulwark and Scavenger. Scavenger,
Okay.
you just get more loot. They're both all around good classes that you can play with any combination of gauntlets you want. Bulwark is obviously a very good defensive class. Transference being the armor leech, it's incredibly powerful. Right. And then on the other side of that with Scavenger, you get Finest Wares for more pots, just general better healing, and Finest Wares as an overall very, very solid skill. And the passive for the extra item is always nice.
Right.
Just two very solid classes on their own, and when put together, they can be made for a safer build for newer players.
Right. What are 3 tips you'd give to somebody who's like picking up the game for the very first time?
Be patient. That would be a huge one. Maybe something a little less general. Take your time to watch people play. And now it's easier now. You can just literally just go on Twitch and watch whoever you want, and they're probably a solid player.
Right.
Learn from them. Ask questions. It's a generally helpful community. You're always gonna have your bad eggs, but for the most part, people are always open to help you. And find the gauntlets that you enjoy. Pick the elements that you think are fun, and then build your class, or your make your build around that playstyle.
Right, like your inventory, complement it. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so enough about Spell for now, my man. Let's talk a little bit about the real Kalnore. So tell me a little bit about yourself as a gamer. What was your system that you got into to start, and which games did you grind over the years?
Well, I'll go back to my very first console was a GameCube. We had Super Mario Sunshine.
Oh, wow.
Mario Kart Double Dash, Frogger,
classics,
stuff like that. After I was a little bit older, my first real online experience was on Xbox. I had 360.
Okay.
And it was with Halo. I was very bad at it, but it was my first real multiplayer experience, which was really cool. My friends all played Xbox, and we started getting into Call of Duty together at Modern Warfare 2 at that time. And that was with my friends. Now, the other side of my gaming experience is on just my laptop. Mostly World of Warcraft.
Right.
I played that, from Lich King. I was a 100% Wrath baby, all the way up, for like very, very mild playing in, I think 2 expansions ago, Legion. I played that more than any game I've played in my life, though.
Well, what was that? WoW?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So are you excited about the new beta coming out?
Yep. I signed up for it. I'm hoping to get access soon. I even resubbed.
Should the Spellbreak community be a little bit worried?
No.
Okay.
I'll take, a day or 2 out of my week to just grind on that game. I never got the chance to play Classic.
Right.
So I'm really excited to kind of dip my toes into that and see what it's all about.
All right, so talk a little bit about your username. Is there a story behind it?
Nope. I had a knack. I just really enjoyed creating my own names, specifically for all my World of Warcraft characters. Based on what kind of character they were, they'd have a different name. Kalnore was the name I created for any sort of magic-based character.
Oh,
so
okay.
Mages, warlocks, priests. Anytime I made one of those on a new server that hadn't had the name Kalnore yet, that was my first choice.
Right. Okay, so anybody who's tuned into one of your streams notices that you like to play a lot of rock. So
yes.
When did you get into rock? Is that your genre that you just absolutely love listening to, or?
I was raised in a family where that music was playing all the time.
Right.
I was always really into Guitar Hero, which is all classic rock music, and I like it. I'm a personal fan of it, and I know specifically for streaming, nobody really hates it.
That's a good point.
like you could play most genres, and there's a group of people that really strongly dislike it, dislike whatever genre you're playing, but I've yet to find somebody that genuinely doesn't enjoy, or at least tolerates it.
Well, that makes sense to me, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what other hobbies do you have besides gaming?
Well, I was a swimmer for a very, very long time. So anytime I get a chance to, go to the pool, stuff like that, it's especially with summer coming up, that's going to be really nice. Honestly, though, I put pretty much all my time that I'm not at work or, eating or sleeping. I'm online. I'm streaming,
Okay.
grinding Spellbreak.
I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, Spellbreak is an amazing game, and stream life can be very taxing and a lot of hours put in, and you're killing it, man. So, what is your biggest dream?
My biggest dream.
Biggest dream.
I think even when I was younger, I always thought it would be cool to be able to do something professionally regarding gaming. Now, the odds of that I know are, I know they're minuscule, but I want to give myself the best chance that I can regarding that. I'll play competitively. I'll do all the streaming stuff like that. The one big thing that appealed to me for that was the fact that I can do it anywhere. Where if I, for like regarding a family, if like we need to go somewhere else, like across the country, that doesn't affect me at all. Because it's all mobile. I just thought that was a huge upside. Plus, like, gaming has been a huge part of my life for since I was a little kid. So being able to do something with that would be fantastic.
How old were you when you got your first system?
Man, I had to be like 6. It was around that 6 or 7 age bracket. I was really young. I don't know the exact year that it came out, but it was somewhere around there.
Okay. If money wasn't an option, what would you be doing every day?
I'd probably be either hanging out with you guys in your chats. There's actually a lot of stuff like just out and about that I don't get to do very often. I wonder if I would take up golf. I like mini golf. Maybe I'd take up golf.
That sounds like fun. I mean, you can't go wrong with mini golf. I love mini golf.
Be a professional mini golfer.
Yeah. Shout out to anyone who wants to take a girl or a guy on a date. Go mini golfing. It's a great experience, I think. Would you recommend it?
Yes, I would.
It's like the original date, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Hi, this is GotSoL. If you're enjoying the podcast, feel free to leave a review. Reviews help the show immensely and are greatly appreciated. Also, don't forget to follow the podcast if you'd like to receive more content. Thanks again, and back to the show. Anyways, so let's get back into Spellbreak. Let's talk a little bit about the current state of the game. And talking about the current state of the game, what do you think about it where it stands?
Overall, it's the most fun I've had in quite some time. And I know, even though my specific playstyle may have changed a little bit, I know overall the community is very happy with the most recent patch. There's just been a very, very little negative feedback and an overwhelming positive amount of feedback.
Right. And to dig a little bit deeper in this last patch, what did you think about it?
I'm a huge fan of the changes to wind, even though I can't wind jump anymore, and that was like a core part of my build.
Right. That's something that little bugged me being a Tempest player. Mm-hmm. I loved the mobility, and I was fine that it wasn't exactly an aggressive gauntlet or as such.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the changes overall for the game, though. I think it's good for the game. They shattered the meta that's been there since I started playing that nobody really admitted to. The wind blink meta, it's gone. They destroyed it. And the addition of the new runes, like the Kangaroon, the Spring Step, I love it. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Just overall, I've been having a lot of fun with this patch. Being able to have that freedom to try other builds and stuff, since mine was kind of shot. Mm-hmm. Being able to explore other options and stuff like that, I've been having a lot of fun with it.
Right. So do you find anything broken about the game right now?
Honestly, there's nothing that really stands out to me as just, really, really bad. I think there's some things that are really strong in the game right now, alacrity being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I know that now that they've kind of toned down other stuff that used to be really strong, like basically lightning was kind of the recent target over the last month and a half. I can see alacrity becoming the next target for that.
Yeah, I can see that. And this might not be a popular topic with you, but how do you feel about the Phoenix Rebirth?
I think it's a dumb passive.
Oh, so you do, and you're like Fire Lord here.
Yeah, I would be happy to see it be something else. And I know a lot of people think it's really good, and I've learned recently that perspective comes from me playing solos and then playing squads. In squads, right. I've learned that it's if you have 3 people all reviving with that, they can just dip behind the other 2 people and heal up and get an actual second life.
Dude, that is such a good point.
Right. Whereas in solos, if I get Phoenix and the other guy has an ice gauntlet, he's probably going to one-shot me right out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different perspective that I hadn't really taken into consideration until, just a month ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something tough to think about. I wonder, do you have any opinions on how they could rework it? Because I'm pretty sure they don't want to take it out of the game.
Oh, no, I know they're big fans of Phoenix.
Yeah.
One idea that I had thought of and bring up every time somebody asks this is some sort of fire aura where it's like a Thorns, but with, fire themed. So if somebody's within 5 meters of you, that seems to be the distance for a lot of things regarding skills. So if they're close to you and they hit you, they get burned for whatever amount of damage it would be to not be useless or overpowered. And that would encourage other people, like people not running fire, to try to keep their distance and play away from fire's sweet spot, which is close range and even mid-range, close to mid-range. And it would make fire a much more aggressive play style as well. They're trying to get into that burn zone.
Right. That's a really interesting idea to think about too. I mean, as well. What do you think about the balancing changes to lightning and wind? Do you think they finally got it right, or do you think there's a little bit more adjustments they can do to it? I mean, okay, to be more specific about lightning, because when you couple lightning with the conduit class, it still can seem a little bit OP,
right?
To most, I guess.
Yeah, and basically, there were 3 patches that nerfed lightning in a row. 22, yeah, 23, 24. Basically, right. After that first one,
yeah,
I wasn't really too shook up about lightning. It was still a good gauntlet, but I think, at least for me, I needed to learn how to outplay it because it wasn't super popular for a long time. Stone, ice, fire, toxic, those were the big ones. Lightning just wasn't. It was a very specific build to certain players, and those players are still doing really well with it. But your average player can't pick up a lightning gauntlet and roast someone anymore who's better than that.
That's fair.
But it did take me some practice and a lot of deaths to lightning to figure out how to outplay it correctly with whatever I had.
Okay, this may couple onto the tips, but let's tangent in here for a second. Do you have any tips towards facing lightning that you could offer?
Keep moving in as erratic as possible. My go-to was, especially if I had, more than 3 charges of blink, was to just zigzag all over them and still getting closer to them so I can close range them with fire.
Okay.
If you're playing ice, keep a cool head because I had to deal with that a lot. Charge up that ice shot to a max hit because they're going to hit you with probably 1 or 2 bursts, which isn't as much damage as you will deal with a full charge ice shot. You will out DPS them if you can do that. But you got to make sure to hit your shots. And if they're blasting you with lightning, you're going to get a little nervous. Just keep yourself collected.
That's a really good point too. I guess sometimes you hit them with that shot, but if you miss, you feel like you're done for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anything you'd like to see worked on for the next patch?
I know that's already been stated that they're going to do it, but optimization
Oh my
frames,
gosh, can't wait.
specifically in the Halcyon region.
Yeah.
Every time it's like the same spot in the map. I walk across that like invisible line and my
FPS
frames
just
drop
gets nuked.
instantly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're all really excited about that patch, and
Yes.
it's something we do on the show each time. But shout out to the devs. Is there anything you'd like to say about the devs?
I love your game.
I love your game, and
I haven't played anything else really like a lot in the 7 months that I've played, almost 7 months now.
Yeah.
Or no, more than that. Yeah, about 7 months. I literally stopped playing what I was doing. I stopped the streaming that I had been doing for a little bit to play that game exclusively.
Yeah, and they really work their tails off, man. They're in the community. They're taking feedback, work hours and hours.
Yeah,
providing
I'm proud to be someone who was able to get one of those first founder packs. You know, they called it the Blind Faith skin, and it really was Blind Faith. You know, I really enjoy that play on words there with the skin, because we had no idea what was going to happen. Yeah. But from what I saw, I was able to get access for a couple of weeks and play the game before I decided to drop the money on a pack, and I'm really happy I did.
Right. So to switch gears a little bit, what do you think about the future prospects of the game?
What do you mean by that?
Like, how well do you think it'll be? I mean, I don't think anyone really sees it as being a Fortnite or challenging Fortnite, but like, how do you feel about it potentially in the future?
It's got all the potential in the world. From my point of view, it's got people coming in from all kinds of games, whether it's battle royales, RPGs, MOBAs, whatever browser games. I don't know, mobile games. The amount of people that I've seen that are not battle royale players come in and really thrive in this environment is amazing to me. And I think that really speaks to kind of the theme and how they've designed their game as a base, with the fantasy, with the battle royale. You know, they're picking up two pretty big gamer populations with that. I think they're trying to make steps in the right direction for the community and what the community wants, and the dev interaction is as much as we could possibly, is more than we could ask for.
Right.
So I think they've got everything set up right. Whether they execute and there's a bit of luck to that. Whether that all plays out is still up in the air.
Yeah, 100%. How would you describe this game to somebody? Because some say it's like an RPG BR. Or would you agree with that?
I would say a fantasy BR with RPG aspects.
Okay. So if you could add one game mode to this game, what would it be?
Arena.
Okay.
Yep. Arena with
anything in particular?
I would, similar to how WoW does it. I didn't really PvP much there, but I know they do like the 2v2s, 3v3s, 5v5s. That might be a little too much, 5v5 in Spellbreak, but doing something like that, small skirmishes. And one thing that I drew from COD was when you create a class in that game, you get 10 points. Whether that's a gun, an attachment, an extra grenade, or whatever, you get 10 items. And I think that would be really cool to see some sort of system like that in Spellbreak if they did an arena mode where, you could drop an extra couple points to get that legendary versus rare gauntlet, but you'd have to sacrifice, a skill point or something, or that behemoth aiming. You can't get that. You got to settle with a nimble.
That's a really good idea. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, I think that would create some interesting builds, and it would allow people not to just play incredibly broken, overpowered builds.
Yeah, it's kind of like those posts where you make your best team for like 10 points pretty much. I mean,
exactly.
It seems very fair because it all adds up, Mm-hmm. So how's life been in the Spellbreak community?
It's been good. I've kind of moved away from the Discord community and that pre-alpha community that I've that I kind of started out on, just because with all the streaming and everything, I've met so many new people that I've really grown to enjoy their company and playing games with them and just kind of hanging out with them in general. And a lot of the newer players that are good in other games that come to Spellbreak, the competitive atmosphere, I've talked about this before. I am choosing not to be a part of that anymore. I just don't like the way that it's going.
Right. So what's one thing you would tell someone when referring to Spellbreak? And when you refer somebody to the Spellbreak community, what would you tell them?
Like, when I refer them, like if I tell them to go talk to somebody? Or
yeah, like as in, if somebody's new to the community and they don't know, like, is it a great community? Is it friendly?
Yes,
or?
I would say definitely friendly overall. Significantly better than other games. You know, every game's, like I said before, every game's got their kind of more toxic group, and that's just inherent of gaming. You're always going to have that. But from what I've seen, Spellbreak has very little of that.
It's like I told Keyboards last show, but would you like to call anybody out?
No,
I'm just kidding. I teased him with that one too, but hopefully I don't make that a thing on the show, but I just can't resist sometimes. So
no, I'm not the one to do that.
I know it. Well, that's it for that segment. We're going to get into the next segment here. So it's called the Soul Seed. It's the part of the show where we ask 21 rapid fire questions while you, the guest, answers them as fast as you can. There's only one rule. Questions must be answered. So let's have some soulful fun. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Coffee or energy drink?
Coffee.
Of course. Favorite snack when streaming?
Chips.
Okay, favorite gauntlet?
Fire.
Do I need to ask? Something hardly anyone knows about you.
I was briefly in the Navy.
Wow. I wish we could talk about that. Favorite anime?
I don't watch anime.
Okay. Wait a minute. You got to answer. No. Okay, so you can only choose one or the other, Pyro or Frostborn.
Pyro.
If you could be any superhero, which would it be?
Iron Man.
Current favorite movie?
Endgame.
Golly, man, I want to do a spoiler so bad, but we're gonna keep it professional.
Yeah.
Blink or Dash?
Blink.
Nintendo or Sega?
Nintendo.
Favorite game of all time?
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart, that's interesting. Runic Fluency or Behemoth Belt?
Runic Fluency.
Most memorable gaming moment?
Elder Scrolls Online PvP. The sieging of the castles.
Yeah.
I've had some pretty sweet moments in there.
All right, you're Batman. Who's Robin? Who's the wingman?
Oh God.
Is there too many to count?
Can I say Shoppy because he plays Fire too?
Okay, that's fair. Player who gives you the most trouble in game?
Keyboards.
Really? If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Firebending.
Okay. If one gauntlet could be made IRL, which one would you want?
I would want to say stone.
Wow, I can't believe you didn't say fire. That's an indictment. Just teasing. Favorite color?
Blue.
Okay. Most underrated item and spell?
Slaking Belt.
Okay. Current favorite song?
The most recent League Championship song. The World song. What was it called? Was supposed to be my favorite and I can't think of the name. Rise.
Okay. Toughest gauntlet to play against?
A good ice user.
Okay. Well, man, that wraps it up for the Soul Seed segment. How did you feel you did?
I think I did pretty well, hopefully.
Yeah, we had some surprises there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it for today's show. If you'd like to catch more of our guest Kalnore, you can watch him live on Twitch at twitch.tv Kalnore, or you can follow him on Twitter at Kalnore Live. Once again, Kalnore, thanks for sharing your soul with us, and until next time, salute.
Thanks for having me on, man.